Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Block 71 pricing masterclass. So now, without further ado, let's introduce our speaker for today. So Sandeep is actually a very seasoned pricing and revenue growth strategist. He actually has hands-on experience advising startups and growth stage companies across Europe and APAC on framing framework and structure and strategies. So after the masterclass, if you are a growth stage startup, right, and you would like to take a one-to-one session with him, please go ahead and register your interest with us. So the one-to-one session, right, is only for growth stage startups. So it's a great way, it's a great opportunity for you to do customized and tailored advice with him. So without any more delay, I'll hand over to him. Over to you.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for the intro, Lee. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning to learn about pricing. It's my pleasure to share my experience with you wherever you stage in terms of startup and founder journey. Today, just by the end of the masterclass, my objective is for you to tell your co-founders we have to think again about our pricing. That's basically the objective of today's session, is to make sure that you consider and you really take into account the importance of pricing strategies on your Go journey. Okay, so Ali already introduced myself, so I just say a couple of words as well. I founded a company called Seed Strategy, and I do advising of scale-ups and startups across Europe and APAC on product and monetization strategies. So I recently also joined actually Block 71 as a mentor on pricing revenue growth. And prior to that, I was actually a management consultant at Simon Kucher, which is a European firm focused specifically on pricing and revenue growth. Okay, so I did actually pricing for different kind of products, SaaS, B2B, B2C, but also AI product as well. So different kind of verticals, just some select clients here. All right, so before we get started, I just wanted to share with you a couple of pitfalls, or I would say mistakes that I've seen founders do even after a couple of years of running their company. And this has a really big impact on many aspects of your business and your Go journey. Okay, so what happens actually when you're not thinking strategically about your pricing, a couple of things can happen. First of all, you come up with an offering here that you see on the left that is not aligned to what customers needs and are willing to pay for. So there's no customer research, there's no segmentation of your offering, and that will definitely impact your conversion rate. Then you have companies, startups going into markets with the same one-size-fits-all approach, and even scale-ups doing the same thing. Of course, I do understand when you really at early stage, when you have just one offer, very simple one, you could start that way, but very quickly you would realize that you have different segments, and you would need to actually evolve your product strategy and pricing strategy as well. The next one, the third that you see here, is when it's typically from technical founders that want to really over-deliver. So you build a really, I would say, sophisticated product with excessively rich bundles that actually go beyond the customer's needs. And that you're not able, even if it's really strong and it really is a strong product technically, and the technology is really strong, but you're not able to sell it. So this is very important to really understand that 20% of your products drives 80% of willingness to pay of customers. That's all what that matters. That's just the 20% of the core of your product drives almost 80% or the big chunk of what customers are willing to pay for. That's what you need to remember. It's not that making your product perfect and perfect and perfect, but forgetting that what you want to sell and what is actually what the customers need. Okay, next is actually when you actually have very complex way of presenting your product, very technical. We don't really understand your value propositions that are really big pitfall as well. Lack of monetization of valuable features that also I see very, very frequently when you just ship product for free on top of the existing packages without really understanding that our customers are willing to pay an extra for that. And I've seen companies, scale-ups that have been doing this for years, and this has a huge impact on margins, on the ability to sustain their revenues over time. And finally, if you don't think about your pricing and packaging model from day one, what happens at a certain moment, you'll see that your growth will actually stop. So you will reach a limit and you see like you're not expanding your customer's revenue, average revenue per customer, year on year. But you want your pricing model set up so that from each customer, you're able to expand year on year. So if the metric and the value metric you choose does not expand the revenue per year per year, it means that it's not the right way to go about it. Okay. So I've actually helped clients move from, let's say, a platform fee to another model where there is usage or other things that make them purchase more of that product or upsell more from that product or software. And which is actually win-win because they are using more of the products, which increases stickiness, and also you get more revenue from that. Okay. So all these mistakes, what happens is basically you have a limited conversion because your pricing model is not aligned to what customers need. So you typically see 15-20% points of conversion that is missed here. High churn, because once you get, unfortunately in the AI age, they try your product, they don't understand, like they do understand the potentially the value prop and they get to the aha moment, but they are not, the pricing model is actually makes things very, they adds a lot of friction to the model. So the churn is really high. And then of course, I will share a little bit about it more in details later on, but the margin is eroded because there's lack of monetization discipline over time. You're not actually creating that pricing power within your startup to be able to increase pricing, to monetize the new features, to actually think value rather than thinking only costs. And basically all of this has an impact on the top line. The 30-50% revenue is completely left on the table. This doesn't really necessarily matter at first hand for early stage startup. It matters a lot for scale ups. So that's what I've seen in terms of mistakes. So now today's masterclass is about how to avoid all of this and how to think about pricing from first principles. Okay, so before we move into the few insights that I want to share, I wanted to give you an update on how AI is actually changing the pricing game. Okay, so AI is actually making pricing even more important, and I'll tell you why. First of all, AI is costly, and we know that we are not close to the world where actually APIs are cheap, tokens are cheap. They are getting cheaper potentially, but the model are getting also complex. So when we see SaaS gross margin going 70-80%, AI startups see potentially 30-50% gross margin. So I shared another slide just after this one to explain more in detail this. The same feature costs vary widely across users. You have power user, heavy users who are actually exploding your costs. That creates some problems, for example, for GPT Pro plan. And so this is really a new situation for AI startups that they need to take into account. Existing revenue model are challenging. I'm going to talk about the revenue model. I'm talking about the value metrics, about the way companies are charging for their products is changing. So I'm sure you heard about seat-based, outcome-based, usage-based model. What we see is we're moving more and more from seat-based to usage-based, outcome-based pricing models. I'm not saying this is like overnight change, but this is the trend that we see with AI. And even with existing incumbents that are actually adding on top AI, augmenting their product with AI, they're starting to use also usage-based. And also we see new pricing metrics that appear, AI tokens, credits, when you look at Lovable, for example. Of course, this brings some unpredictability for users or customers, but with this situation today, with the AI token costs and the lower gross margin, there is no, I would say, temporary solution to do that. So you need to play on those usage-based models and those kind of metrics. Now, the fifth element is very interesting, is the value perception actually shifting with AI. So how do you value human replacements? Right? So it's how do you value when you have a software that's actually, you have existing software that can actually help people be more productive, but you have software that replace human beings, right? That are AI digital works. So how do you actually evaluate? So this is new, right? Credit consumption. So I've been recently thinking about it, is you're used to pay a price. Okay, so let's say we pay $20 for subscription. So we have a price in front of us. Now we see credits, and we use those credits within the subscription. So we start to have a sensitivity not towards the price points, but towards usage, right? So this is changing also from that standpoint. And also, like, given that the models are changing, you're not able to compare apples to apples when you look at different competitors. You cannot say this company is, I mean, of course, for traditional SaaS, you still can. But now, at this moment, we see this cross competitors benchmark on pricing is very blurred. It's not very clear. So because of all of this, it is time to give pricing the attention and the importance it deserves. Because I will explain in this presentation why it's extremely important to design your pricing right from day one. Okay. So just one more thing before we move to the core of the presentation and share more about the insight that I want to convey today, the key messages. Why gross margin is becoming an important KPI for you. In traditional SaaS, what we see when you look at the left part of the slide, you see this is revenue and this is infrastructure cost. What you see is that the more customers you have, this is the x-axis, the more customers you have, the more the cost per customer is reduced, and thus your captured margin increases, and then you're like near zero, I would say, marginal cost. Okay, that's the traditional SaaS model. Now, with AI native products, which are actually built on token and based AI infrastructure, what you see is what happens with 10 customers is gonna stay with 10,000 customers basically, right? Because there are AI token costs that are really correlated to the usage, so which means that the revenue and the AI token costs are very close. You have thinner margins. So this is illustrative, of course, but just to tell you that the era of what we saw before, of being able to scale your software and being profitable, I would say, if you reach a certain scale, now has to be done earlier. Your model has to be profitable from early days. I'm not saying to be profitable from day one, but you have to have a pricing model that is strong from the beginning. Okay. So what does it mean? First of all, it means that you need to track your costs from day one. Okay, so it means that the token cost, API cost, the user's consumption, even your time. This is the number one. Number two, you need to optimize your costs for usage efficiency. That's not the focus of today's masterclass, but you have to optimize your models, your prompt efficiency, to optimize your workflows. And finally, what is the focus of today is like to design a pricing that covers the compute costs and captures customer value while being at the same time competitive. It's not an easy game. I definitely say that pricing is hard, but I hope from today's masterclass, you would at least have a few things to think about, an approach, a framework to get started with challenging and restructuring your pricing model. That's the objective for today. Okay, so I just want to set the scene on what's happening with AI and how it's changing the pricing game and why pricing is becoming important. Now, let's get into the core of the masterclass. So today, I really want you to remember 5 key insights. So at the end of the session, if you remember those 5 key insights, I've done a good job. 5 key insights, remember. Okay. The first one, I just want to tell you this is extremely, extremely important. Pricing is not just a number. It's actually, it goes hand in hand with your value story. So the way you think about pricing is doing guesswork and thinking maybe $10 or $20 or $100 is not going to create friction. So let's go ahead with that model. Actually doesn't work. And I'll tell you why. So that's the first message. And to do that, I wanted to share with you a story. This is, of course, illustrative, but it gives you an idea of where we are heading in terms of AI pricing. Okay. So imagine that you a solution, it's an HR solution that helps recruiters screen CVs, schedule and run interviews, write candidate summaries, recommendation actions, basically supporting recruiters, okay, or being even recruiters themselves. Okay, let's say this is your product, HR product, very simple. Okay, now I'll give you 2 founder stories. Okay, 2 founder stories. The first one, so the pitch is saying basically our AI product is an HR assistant that helps your HR team in the full recruitment cycle, from screening, scheduling, running, and deciding on candidates. So it's augmenting HR assistant, right? So we price it $39 per user per month. And the value story is our product saves each recruiter 5 hours per week, which is typically $600 per month of savings, delivering an ROI of 12. This is how you present the story to your clients, to your customers. Okay. Now listen to story number 2. The same product. You present it as an AI recruiter that fully manages sourcing, screening, and outreach, operating as a digital recruiter, and you say hire 5 times faster at 20% costs of a human recruiter. And the pricing model is not subscription, is 1,000 per month per recruiter instance, so an AI digital worker, and an outcome part, which is 250 per successful hire, which is outcome based. And your value story is typically saying a typical recruiter costs $5,000 a month. One AI recruiter instance can handle 80% of the workload, which saves up to $4,000 per month. Okay. So now, what is the difference? The difference is a couple of dimensions that we will go through: perception, pricing model, budget, and annual recurring revenue per customer. The founder number 1, so the HR assistant, is perceived as a productivity tool. It's perceived as something that existing employees are using, right? So pricing model is a seat-based. The budget is going to be IT software budgets, 5-10% of total cost of your target customers, and annual recurring revenue per customer is 245. We take an assumption of 5 years. Because now, if you talk about founder number 2 and the founder number 2 story, it's a fully autonomous digital recruiter. And the pricing fee is an instance fee. The pricing model is an instance fee and outcome-based. And the budget is not software budget. It's like basically we're moving towards thinking about labor and operational cost, which is way, way bigger than the IT budget, which is 5-10%. Now you tap into 50-80% potential costs of your target customers. And annual recurring revenue is 2,250, which we took just 1 AI worker and 5 hires per month as the outcome of that AI digital worker. So basically, you're doing 10 times 10 the annual recurring revenue from just the way you present your product. Okay, 1 step back here. I'm not saying that you should actually convey messages that are not aligned to your product. I'm saying that we are moving towards this kind of value stories with AI. And I'm saying that you need to actually have that as an objective to drive outcome-based pricing or value-based pricing, rather than thinking about just a subscription, a fixed fee. Okay, and so this is interesting because I would say, let's say you go with the story number 1. Okay, you price per seat. So if your software is in itself is helping HR assistants, it's in itself, it optimizes because it helps one recruiter. Maybe they wouldn't need 5 seats because it optimizes the work of HR assistants in its core, which means that they can actually potentially over time reduce the number of seats that they purchase from you. So that's actually one of the biggest risks with seat-based models that SaaS companies are facing now. And knowing that with AI and the more data you get, proper data from the clients, the more your AI gets intelligence, and actually you can even monetize more because you're more performance, and it's able to actually do more than 5 hires per month, etc. And you're able to extract that value and scale your revenues along with that increased outcome. Okay. So this is to show you where we're heading in terms of AI pricing as well. And I'm not inventing things. There are companies that are already doing this kind of things. Where you can check out 11x.ai. It's AI-driven SDR, sales development representatives. And you can see here they have two, I think Alice and Julian, and they are priced at I think 5,000 to 10,000 per month, and they are covering 3,000 contacts, something like that. So you could check out their website, the way they share, also the value they communicate on the value. They don't share the pricing on their page, but you could find using LLMs what's their pricing. But this is just an example to tell you that this is really happening right now. Okay. Okay. So now I hope you understood point number 1, which is pricing is not a number. Pricing is really the value story that you communicate to your customers. That was my point. Okay. Next. Insight number 2 is to tell you that as a founder, your job is to uplift your customer's perceived value, right? As close as possible to your product economic value. What is economic value? Is basically how much value you generate using your product. Okay. So this is your job. You have to have this as a mission to uplift your customer's perceived value. Okay. Okay. I really like to tell a joke here because I've worked with different founders at different levels of the startup journey, and I want to share with you what is the product perception between you and your customers. Usually what happens. So this is how you see your products. Usually this is how you see your product, right? But actually this is how your customers see your product, right? And your objective is to uplift that value, that perception of value. Okay. And I will actually explain a bit more in details about how to do it. So let's say this is your cost, okay? And this is your price, so you're getting this margin, but this is the customer total perceived value, how much they perceive value, and this is your product total economic value, okay? So in other words, this is how much your product generates in terms of economic value. This is how much revenue it generates, this is how much cost it saves, whatever it is. This is how customers perceive the value. And your objective actually is to do what? To increase the customer total perceived value to your product value. But it doesn't happen overnight, right? But if you're able to do this, you're able to increase your price. That's the only way, because otherwise you have friction. Okay, so far so good. Now, how to do it? How to do it? And it's really good that you still at early days of your journey, and I'm sharing this with you, and I hope you start implementing, because I've seen founders after 10 years, 20 years not doing this kind of things from day one, and it's extremely, extremely important to do it. How do you increase the value perception of your customers? These things are your assets. And your assets, you have to build them from day one. Maybe it won't monetize now, but in a year, in 2 years, you'll see that it's actually monetizing. This is helpful, very helpful for you in your journey. Okay, let's deep into the details. ROI models. You have to design a model for actually simulating the impacts of your products on the top line and the bottom line. If you don't have an ROI model today, and you're talking to customer and presenting pricing, it's like you go into the battlefield unprotected. That's number one. Number two is to have proof of concepts with existing customers. Business cases are extremely well detailed with the proof on the P&L on existing customers, big names if possible. These have to be implemented and done as a process every time you work with a customer. Okay. You have to have an in-product impact tracking, so letting users see the impact of the software. Imagine that you have a software and you can see how much cost you saved or how much emissions you reduced. Let's say if you are in the environmental and sustainability space, if you are able to introduce those as a features in your product, this is a really good thing to do. And this is something that is usually missed by founders, is they don't think about how to increase the adoption of the software within the existing client. They're looking for clients, they're going to expand, but they're not thinking of expanding number of users, exposure of their product within the company. Okay, this is important because it increases stickiness. It increases your monetization potential, and it reduces churn. So don't focus only on getting new customers. Of course, it's important. Also focus on how we can expand existing customers, increasing the number of users or upselling them, etc. And why does it increase the value perception? Because potentially when you have different people, influencers, decision makers talking to each other and using your software, it's easier to say, okay, we are a large enough number of people that are using the software, so we actually start to really trust your brand and your product. And then there are other things that are important. I won't go into the details. Your founder branding, for example, on LinkedIn or using podcasts, this is extremely important. Using social networks, LinkedIn is also a very important platform to use. Doing community building, events, for example, creating a community around your products, and doing referrals that actually fuel monetization loop. And actually referrals are a proof that people are recommending your products, and it increases value perception. Okay, now we've seen that pricing is not just a number. We've seen that you need to uplift your customers' perceived value up closer to your real economic value. We've seen that. Now, I want to share with you how to approach pricing. Okay, so usually when I hear companies and founders, particularly in early stage, thinking about pricing, they think, oh, how much should I charge? But that's not the right way to go about it at first. You need to think first about what to charge for, how to charge for it, and how much to charge for it. So when I say 3 steps, packaging model, pricing model, price level. Packaging model is what is the most relevant way to structure our product offerings. Is it a good, better, best? For example, like Zoom does. Is it a platform plus add-ons, like HubSpot? The pricing model is basically what is the value metric that you're going to use. Is it going to be seat-based? Is it going to be usage-based? Let's say you have a number of reports that you generate with software. Is it going to be outcome-based? Which is harder, of course, because it's not always feasible for companies if it's not actually measurable. And basically, you need to consider the price level. The price level is how much should I charge? And then you need to consider the value, the customer's willingness to pay, the cost to serve, compare pricing, and triangulate all of this to be able to have a really pricing that translates the value of your product, being at the same time competitive and covering your costs as well. Okay. Now I will move a bit quicker in this part. I just want to share with you that not all models are the same, and it's not because Zoom is on good, better, best that this is what you need to do. Of course, most of SaaS companies are here at good, better, best. Like you have a standard, basic, standard, and premium. I'm sure you're familiar with this. Some companies use the use case-based packages, like LinkedIn, for example. This is typically used where the use case is completely different. You have HR using the LinkedIn solution, HR solution from LinkedIn, and you have actually Sales Navigator, which is actually not to hire, but to get leads. And so you have different use cases that are not comparable. Okay, so you cannot put them in a good, better, best model, right? Good, better, best is when actually you have different segments, and you want, but the maturity of the segment is different, and the level of features is different. And typically, when we see basic is some core features, standard is adding some advanced features to it, and then premium is for enterprise, for example, where you add security, you add some service level agreements and stuff like that. And so platform is something where you offer a whole bunch of features, and then you sell add-ons on top. Just add. So not all models are the same, and you need to think about which one is the right for you. Okay. Now, in terms of pricing metric, of course, this is also important. You need to really brainstorm and take a list of all the possible value metric that you can actually use, and think about: is it scalable for you? Is it feasible? Is it predictable for you? Is it fair for customers? Are they willing to pay that way? Does it engage them in using more your software? Okay, so these are three kind of value metrics. I really want to spend more time here. So this is a really good framework from Madhavan. He is an ex partner of the Salmon Culture. It's the company I actually shared about earlier, where I actually was a managing consultant over there, and he is actually sharing about the different AI pricing archetypes. And he's basically saying that there are two dimensions that you need to consider: attribution and autonomy. Attribution is how clearly can the AI actions be linked to measurable outcomes. So how much can you say that this is the AI that drives the outcome? And autonomy is how much does the AI operate independently? So does it replace or does it augment humans? So depending on those two dimensions, you'll see what kind of model would actually best work for you. So let's say if attribution is low and autonomy is low, then of course you cannot say that the AI has done it, that has impacted that, and it does not work independently, like Slack, Figma, etc. So it's actually a subscription. You cannot do much more than that. But here, if attribution is high, so you can attribute that to the AI. So AI helped me design this. AI helped me develop this software, etc. So this is where you can use a hybrid model with a base fee and consumption, usage based. So this is like Canva, Cursor, and then you have cases where the autonomy is high and attribution is low. So it's just AWS doing the compute work, OpenAI, etc., etc. And then this is like the golden, I would say, quadrants where you can definitely attribute the outcome to AI, and it's actually independently drives the work. So like let's say there's Intercom, Fin, Chargeflow, Sierra, they are able to charge per outcome. These are examples. So if you're uncertain about full outcome-based model right now, I would suggest starting with base fee plus usage or base fee plus outcome. This is a good starting point to make sure that you're not having a base fee and you have exploding explosion of usage from power users, and it depending on how much it costs you. So for some companies, AI is not that costly, and I've seen a couple of founders where it's the case. And in this case, what happens is they could do a subscription. They could still do a subscription. Okay, I think we won't have. I still have a couple of things to share, so we just go beyond the 20 minutes that and I'm happy to do 5-10 minutes at the end and add that to the end, because I think it's really important that I share this as well. So
Sure.
okay, thank you, Lee. So this is one of the most important messages of this masterclass. If you're not having willingness to pay conversations with clients and you're afraid to do it, you're losing a lot of value and potential value before even you launch your product. And you need to, once you're clear and confident on the value positioning, on your value metrics, and all the work that I've just shared with you, you need to go ahead and test your pricing with your customers. I'm not saying just sharing all your slides and sharing all your pricing model. No, you're giving you just a frame to think about it. You can take a screen of this and think about it. It's from the context, present the product value, project them in the buying scenarios, get first impressions to what kind of software they compare you, discuss with them packaging models, discuss with them value metric that I just said. Share with them for example, share with them the number. Let's say you want to charge a number of report generated, or let's say data being inputted into the system. ask them. And you will see, after doing 10, 15 interviews, you will start to see, okay, this is not fair for customers. This makes more sense to do. Okay, that's the main thing. And then during this conversation, it will be very helpful because you understand the price influence drivers, and how they make decisions, and you will be able also to discuss price points. And a good way to talk about price points, and I know it's something that people are a bit not clear about how to do it. There is a technique called Van Westendorp price meter. It's not possible for every type of business to do it, and particularly it needs some kind of infrastructure, but you can use it in a more simplified way. Okay, so it's basically asking your customers what, after presenting your product and the value and all the stuff, at what price would you consider this product to be too expensive, to be expensive, to be good deal, to be too cheap? And that way, because people don't think about things in absolute, they think about things in relative one to the other. That's a much easier way to actually get customers' feedback. So and then basically what happens, it asks them each of these questions, and then you get the charts of each, the too expensive chart, too cheap, not a bargain, and not expensive. And basically you're able to see this is where the chart intersects here, and between here and here you get a ballpark of where you need to be positioned in terms of price levels. It doesn't tell you, look, this is the right price. It tells you at least the range. If you're not able to do, this is typically works well in B2C, where you have, like, let's say, thousands of respondents and you're showing the product and you get a lot of volume. But even if you don't, even if you are having qualitative interview, you can also ask them this question: what price? You don't have to use the 4 elements. You can say what price would be expensive, what price would be a good deal, and what price would be too cheap. Too cheap means that you would even you would think that the product is not of a good quality. That's what too cheap means. Okay. Now, this is what a good price packaging model looks like. Basic, standard, premium, very compelling value props, clear upgrade path, very clear pricing levels, features are very well defined, add-ons are very well defined. You have a pricing, frequently asked questions, what is a credit, what is a token, and the value goes by tier. So this is what a SaaS tiered packaging model looks like. And even AI, you could also use this kind of model, but that's not what clarity means. Okay, next. 4 point. Pricing is not a one-time exercise, it's a journey. You need to iterate, experiment as your product and segment and geographies expand. So I'm gonna share, of course, what OpenAI did. It's not the best example in terms of pricing, and there were a couple of different elements that I would be sharing. But so they started with the freemium in November 2022. They were monetizing open APIs before that through usage-based model, but then they expanded with the first paid plan in 2023 with the plus $20 per month, and then this one was actually an anchor to price to other providers as well, other LLMs who actually just did the same kind of pricing model, because there was not like sophistication of pricing models. They didn't have that sophistication of traditional SaaS models of doing packaging and pricing properly. And so they expanded, then started to do segments differentiation. So they started enterprise, they started pro, they did pro, $200. What happens with pro? They are losing. They started with unlimited usage from this segment. They were actually losing money on the subscriptions. So they forecast a 5 billion loss. I don't think this was intentional. And then they started regional differentiation, so which means that they wanted to get more users from countries that have less willingness to pay. Like, let's say Indonesia, they started with $5 a month, and here you saw also Malaysia. So that's how. Just to share it with you that it's a journey. So which means that this is a PLG example, product-led growth. So we start with the freemium, viral loops, word of mouth, referrals, but then you cannot actually just do the pricing now and say you figure out later what's the journey. You have to figure out the journey now to think about what are how will I actually monetize customers later. It's okay to start freemium. So then you expand into business and teams. So you have to figure out what is your strategy to convert users from free to paid through multi-users collaboration, advanced features, sophistication of your models. And then enterprise is, okay, you need security, SSL, access management, service level, all that stuff. I think you got it. And then pricing has a huge psychological components. This is number 5. You should not forget that, at least for now, you're selling to humans, hopefully, 95% of cases, and it has a lot of psychology in it. So I just want to share examples of three psychological things. First of all, I remember the first insights of value story. You have to know what you're selling. Are you Voss? Are you this kind of really premium water, or are you Dasani, right? And this is water, right? You just think it's the same water, but it's not the same position. The core effect is basically play on the price architecture to influence decision making. Let's say here, I just give you an example with popcorn. You have $2.5, $5, $5.5. So customers can say, oh, this is the decoy. I wouldn't take the $5. I just add a $0.5, and they can buy the big one, right? So that's typically what you see at Starbucks or even in cinemas. So this is how they actually incentivize customers to take the big package. And this is not just in food. It can happen also in SaaS. Compromise effects means really giving the options, not giving just one option. Particularly when you're trying to negotiate with customers, you POC, for example, if they don't agree to one pricing, so let's say you want to charge 50K, okay, on the price, they don't agree. You can do 20K and have a part of it that is outcome based. You have or have two options which are with reduced sophistication of features. So you have to play on those options to give choice. Not 5 choices. Of course, they'll be confused. With clarity, give them 2, 3 choices where it brings conversations. Okay. All right. 5 lessons from today. 1, pricing is not just a number. It goes hand in hand with your value story. You have to be clear. You have to be confident and consistent. You have higher chances of scaling profitably. 2, your job as a founder is to uplift your customers' perceived value as close as possible to your product economic value. Remember the horse. Approach pricing from a strategic standpoint, not from just how much, but from the what, how, and only then how much. Okay, think about autonomy and attribution, that framework that I shared with you from Madhavan. And then 4th, pricing is a journey, is not a one-time exercise, and pricing has a huge psychological component. You have to consider that in your price positioning and negotiations. Now, you're very familiar with Manus AI, I'm sure. Okay, big acquisitions, I'm really fan of their products, works well, but there are things that really need improvements in terms of pricing. Because when you look at the pricing model, and I've been a free user so far, you don't really see what's the value prop. For whom is it? Standard monthly usage, customizable monthly usage, extendable usage for productivity. For whom is it? For which segment? And then I'm not sure about the extra value I get from one package to the other. And next, I don't understand what is the credits and what means self-set usage, changing needs. There are things that are very, very blurry. And this creates huge friction in terms of pricing. And now look at Lovable. I'm sure you know Lovable to build websites and apps. They have very clear value propositions designed for fast-moving teams building together in real time. The inclusions are very clear. Credit flexibility, you can buy the tier, but if you don't want to upgrade to a new advanced tier, you can buy additional credits. And then, I don't know if you know Elena Vernice, she's really, really, she's working as a growth head at Lovable, and she's really interesting to follow in terms of growth and pricing and all this stuff. And she's saying that in this LinkedIn post that you asked to be listened. So she's hearing customers' feedback, and they implemented a sort of when you're actually reaching the limits, and I experienced it myself, you don't have to upgrade to a next plan. You can also top up credits. So it means that there is more flexibility. And more flexibility means frictionless pricing model. Okay? So that's just to share with you a few cases where pricing works well and pricing doesn't really work that well. I'm sure Facebook Meta will do a good job with pricing Manus AI. Okay, so I think we covered all the material. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it was helpful. On the left part of this slide, you have my LinkedIn. If you want to connect, I'm happy to connect with you. You can scan this QR code. On the right side, it's actually you can subscribe to my free newsletter, and you have access to my website, where you can also actually, if you want to go beyond and design your pricing model and really deep dive into the details, you can schedule a call with me. So that's about how to keep in touch with me. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm happy to share some of the insights. I hope it was helpful.